We continue now at the top of Daf Memches and Meseches Bava Metzia. This is Bava Metzia Daf 48b. On the previous summit, the Gemara brought a brisa, which seems to go against Reish Lakish's opinion. The brisa seems to say that Mos is konos on a doraisa level. Money can create an acquisition on a Torah level, and the Gemara therefore says Elakasha l'Reish Lakish. So this brisa is now difficult to Reish Lakish. Rashi says Elakasha hachmas nista de Levi l'Reish Lakish. This brisa that we just brought in the previous summit from Levi is a question on Reish Lakish. Amar Lach Reish Lakish will say to you, Hamani Rabbi Shimon, who's the author of that brisa? It is Rabbi Shimon. And Rashi explains, Rabbi Shimon, he do Amar b'masnisin lokeach lo matzi hadarbe. Again, Rabbi Shimon was the one in our Mishnah who said that the lokeach, the buyer, is not able to retract to kasavar mos konos, because Rabbi Shimon holds that on a doraisa level, even according to Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon holds that money is kona, and that's why, again, Rabbi Shimon makes a distinction between the seller and the buyer. He says the seller is able to retract, but the buyer cannot retract because the money is in fact kona on a doraisa level. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Aval Amru Misha Para V'chulu. Again, somebody who goes back on his word, even if it's not a Kinyan. We have this Misha Para, the one who punished the generation of the Mabul, etc., is going to punish this person who doesn't stand by his word. And the Gemara says, Itmar, it was stated the following, Machlokas Amoroim. Abaya Amar Odoe Modinon Le. Abaya says, Misha Para means to say that we inform the person, we let him know about this punishment. Rava Amar Rava says, Meilat Laitina Le. We actually curse him with this curse of the Misha Para. Rashi explains, Modinan le dashim tachser sofcha li para mimcha. We say you should know that if you end up retracting on what you committed to, you're going to be punished. That's Abaya's explanation. Rava says that it's an actual curse that we give the person. And the Gemara continues, Abaya Amar Abaya says, Odoe Modinan le, we let him know about this punishment. T'chsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, V'nasi ba'amcha lo sar, it's prohibited to curse somebody. So it can't be that we're actually cursing him, so it must be we're just letting him know about this punishment. Rava Amar Meila T'laitinanle. Rava says we actually do curse him. What about the issue of a nasi ba'amcha lo sar? So that's the chsiv bi'amcha, because the pasuk it's written bi'amcha in your nation, and we darshan ba'osa ma'isa amcha. This prohibition of cursing somebody only applies to somebody who is doing the proper deeds of your nation. But here, where the person is acting improperly, we are allowed to curse this individual. And Rashi explains, Ba'osa Maisa Amcha, he has to be doing the deeds of your nation. Bi'amcha darshin and hachi, we're darshaning the word Bi'amcha. V'hailav Osa Maisa Amcha, and this person who is going back on his word, that's not called Maisa Amcha. T'chsiv, because it's written in the pasuk, She'eris Yisrael lo yasu avlo v'lo yadabru chazav. She'eris Yisrael is not supposed to lie. This person is going back on his word. And so therefore, again, according to Rava, we actually do curse this individual. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Mana Aminullah, from where can I show that it's an actual curse? Reb Chia Bar Yosef, Yehavu le zuzei amilcha, because Reb Chia Bar Yosef, he was given money for salt, he was selling salt to somebody. L'sofi yakar milcha, in the end, the salt went up in value, so he wanted to go back on the sale. Asa l'kamid Reb Yochanan, he came before Reb Yochanan, Amar le said to him, Zil havlu, you have to give them the salt. V'ilo, and if not, kavel alecha mishapara, you're going to receive a mishapara. And so what does that mishapara mean? Does it mean that we're actually going to curse him with the mishapara, or does it mean he's letting him know? And so the Gemara says, if you're going to say that it means simply that we let him know about the concept of Mishapar, like Abaya says, so Reb Chia Bar Yosef Bar Odoi, who is Reb Chia Bar Yosef, somebody that we need to teach him the concept of Mishapar, he was a Talmud Chacham, we wouldn't need to teach him. And so therefore, obviously what he was saying is that you're going to be cursed if you go back on what you said. But the Gemara says, one second, V'elamai, but then what are you going to say? Meilat Laitin Le, that he's saying that we're actually going to curse him. Reb Chia Bar Yosef Asi L'Kbuli Aleh L'Tusa de Rabbanan, you think Reb Chia Bar Yosef is willing to have a curse of the Rabbanan upon him? In other words, if Reb Chia Bar Yosef knows the halacha, what's he doing over here? Coming to Reb Yochanan, he's coming before Reb Yochanan. Reb Yochanan tells him about the fact that he's going to be cursed. Of course he knows that as well. Why is he even asking? And so the Gemara says, El Reb Chia Bar Yosef, a Rav on who? Do Yahavile. What happened actually in this case was by Reb Chia Bar Yosef, they didn't give him the full payment for the salt. They gave him a Rav, and essentially a down payment. They gave him the beginning of the payment. And so who Savar Kenegda Hukona, he thought that Kinyan is only connected the amount of money that they give. So he said, I'll give the amount of salt corresponding to the amount of money that you gave. I don't need to give the whole thing. And that's why he came before Rabbi Yochanan. V'yamarle Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said to him, Keneged kula hukon. It actually acquires all of the salt. You have to give all of the salt. The discussion had nothing to do with Mishapara. Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef was aware of Mishapara. The issue was, how much money do we say then do we commit to the entire deal? And Rashi explains, Ayakar Milcha, the salt went up in value, Varatza Lachzer, so therefore Reb Chia Bar Yosef, he wanted to retract on the sale. Baro Doehu, so then the Gemara initially said, is Reb Chia Bar Yosef someone we need to inform him about Mishapara Bitmiya? This is a question. Do we need to let him know that he's going to be punished, just like all the other liars are punished? He's a Talmud Chacham, he knows that. And so the Gemara then explained it had nothing to do with his knowledge or informing him about the curse of the Mishapara. What it had to do with was a Rav, it was a down payment. Mixas hamos nasan lo al pisuk maruba. They gave him a little bit of money, but it was for a lot of the salt. It was just a down payment. Who savar kenegdo hu kona? He thought it's just going to be kona kenegdo, corresponding to the amount of money that was given. Imechiras karko sheniknas bekesef kona kinyan gomer. Meaning, let's say it was a sale of land. So land you can acquire with money. So then you would only get the land corresponding to the amount of money that was given. That's what he thought. V'imechiras metaltalin, and when it's the sale of metaltalin, like over here with the salt, hu kona kenegdo l'schai b'mishapara. He thought there's only a mishapara on that particular amount of salt corresponding to the amount of money, and that's what Rabbi Yochanan informed him. That is not the case. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, it was stated in Machlokas Amoraim on this issue, a Rav, when it comes to a down payment, Rav Omer Kenegdo, who Kona Rav says, again, the down payment only creates a kinyan corresponding to the amount of money that was given. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, Keneged Kula, who Kona creates a kinyan on the entire thing. And Rashi says, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Bekarka lekinyan Gomer. Again, this is by land. We're talking about a full acquisition, because land is nikna, land is acquired with money. So even a down payment, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you're going to get all the land. And again, if a metaltalin the kabel mishapar, by metaltalin, there's a mishapar. If you go back on your word, that mishapar applies to everything, to all the metaltalin. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it only applies to the metaltalin corresponding to the down payment, according to Rav. And the Gemara continues, Metzia, we have the following question. Hanosen a Ravan l'chaver. If somebody gives a Ravan l'chaver, now here in this brisa, the word a Ravan doesn't mean exactly what it meant previously of a down payment. Rashi here explains. Hanosen a Ravan lo dami lahidel el. It's not similar to what we have earlier. Dezeh eno prias mixas mos. This is not like a down payment. Shekorn er shelo a Ravan umashkon liknos es achos. But what's happening over here, it's more like a guarantee that a person is given, almost like a collateral. The person's giving a certain guarantee what's going to happen, what fine will be imposed if he retracts. That's what's happening in this brisa. In any case, the brisa continues again. Hanosen a Ravan l'chavero. A person gives this kind of a Ravan to his friend. V'yamar lo, he says to him like this: Imani chozer bi, if I retract on this deal, ervuni mochalach, then I forgive the a Ravan to you. You can keep what I am giving you. V'halo amar lo, and then the other party says back, Imani achzor bi, if I'm the one that retracts, echvo lach ervoncha, I'm going to give you double the a Ravan, meaning to say I'm going to give you this value of the a Ravan. Essentially, I'll give back that which you gave me, plus I'll give you the same value. I'm going to double it back to you, so you're going to get the Eravon back. So the point over here is they made some kind of condition which essentially imposed a fine if either party were to retract on the deal. So Niskaimu Hatanoim Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that such a condition that actually does take effect. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. And the Gemara says Rabbi Yossi Lataime, Rabbi Yossi is following his opinion. De'amar Asmachta Kanya. Rabbi Yossi in general says that an Asmachta is Kona. An Asmachta is something again along these kind of lines where a person says, if such and such a thing happens, I'm going to make you a guarantee. Rabbi Yossi says that is an effective condition. Rashi explains, Rabbi Yossi l'taimei damer b'Bava Basra b'Perek Poshet. Rabbi Yossi says in Bava Basra asmachta kanya, that an asmachta is a good kinyan, which means haftachas guzma she'adam haftiach es chaveru lismoch olav. A person gives a certain guarantee to his friend to rely on him. She'im lo yikayim, to know that if it should not be fulfilled, whatever the condition is, yiten kach v'kach, he will give such and such. That is a kind of thing that can be binding according to Rabbi Yossi. And the brisa continues, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Da'ayo sheyikna keneged ervono, it's enough that they acquire corresponding to the value of the eravon. And Rashi explains, Da'ayo sheyikna lo ze yimchol v'lo ze yichfol, meaning the deal that they made is not binding. We don't say that the person keeps the eravon if the other party reneges or vice versa. Elo lo ze v'lo ze yichol l'achza, rather, either party is not able to retract milakayim min ha'mechira keneged ho eravon, meaning corresponding to the value of the eravon, that amount of the sale has to go through, whatever the eravon is worth, but they could retract on the rest of the sale. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion of how this Eravon works. And the brisa continues, Amar Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rav Shimon Gamliel says, B'ameh devorim amurim, when is this true? Now Rashi explains, B'ameh devorim amurim she'eno kona ela keneged ervona. When do we say that the kinyan is only corresponding to the value of the Eravon? When is it true, essentially what Rabbi Yehuda says? Bizman sha'amar lo ervuni yikon. That's only if he says ervuni yikon. He has to say that phrase. Rashi explains, Bisman Shamar Lo Ervuna Yikon, if he says that this payment that I'm giving should acquire, Yiknet should create the kinyan, Shalo Nosnu Lo B'Toras Tchilas Piron, V'Hashar Olav Milva, meaning he didn't give it to him as like a down payment and the rest is a loan obligation that he has. Ela B'Toras She'eravon Zeh Yikne Esakol. He says that I want this Eravon to acquire everything. If he gives it with that understanding, so then we're going to say that it's going to correspond Keneged Ervono. And Rashi explains, V'Halav Milsi, saying that an Eravon should acquire all of it is essentially nothing, and that's why you're only going to acquire according to the value of the Eravon. That's when Rav Shimon ben Gamliel would concede that we say that there is a kinyan corresponding to the value of the Eravon. And now Rav Shimon ben Gamliel continues, and this is relevant to us. Avol mocher lo bayis osada. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel continues and says, but if he sells to him a house or a field, be'elef zuz, he sells it to him for 1,000 zuz. Upara lo mehem chamesh meo zuz, and then he gives him 500 zuz from that sale. That's essentially the down payment that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan were arguing about. Here in the Brisa, we get to the case of the Machlokas Amoraim above. So if that's what happens, Kona he does acquire, umachzer lo esashar, and he returns whatever the remainder is, afilu la'achar kama shanim, even after several years, even after many years. Rashi here explains, avol mocher lo v'nosan lo mehen hei meo zuz l'shem tchilas piron. Stam, but let's say he gives him 500 of the 1,000 zuz as a down payment, or he just gives it to Stam without saying anything. Kana, then it is going to be an acquisition. V'yahidi fligu bo Rav Rabbi Yochanan ki agavnu. Rashi points out that this is exactly the case of the machlokas between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Shezeh ho'iravon techilas hadamim, that this Eravon is essentially a down payment. Hapiron shel pisa ki yoiv le Stam. That's going to be true also when he gives it to Stam. That's essentially functioning as a down payment. And so the Gemara now continues and brings its proof. My lav is it not? What's Rav Shimon ben Gamliel saying? He's saying hu hadin lemetalton. Whatever he's saying here for property, for land, would be true by movable objects as well in terms of mishapara. Bidistama kani luhu lakulu. And what he's really saying over here is that there is a full kinyan in this situation. With the down payment is a full kinyan, and that would be a support for Rabbi Yochanan and a question on Rav. Rabbi Yochanan said it's keneged kula hu kona, it's a full kinyan. Rav said it's only corresponding to the value of the Eravon. And here Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is saying that if he gives him the 500 zuz, kona, that is considered to be a full payment, machzer lo esashar seems to be that he owes him the rest of the money, but it is a full kinyan. And the Gemara says not necessarily a proof. It could be Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is only talking about land. Lo no, metaltalin b'distama lo koni. It could be by metaltalin. If he just gives it stam, it's not going to be kona the whole thing. Umay shnon. What's the difference between metaltalin and karka? Karka devikaspa koni le mamish, because by land where kesef is a real full kinyan, it's not just a mishapara. Koni le lekula. So then you get the whole thing with a down payment. Metaltali de lo koni ela lekabule mishapara. When it comes to metaltalin, where the kinyan really is only to affect the mishapara, lo koni le kula. So then he doesn't get the whole thing just with a down payment. That mishapar is only going to go on the portion of the down payment itself. And the Gemara continues, Lema ketanoi, let us say that this is a machlokas tanoim, whether again a down payment acquires partially or the whole thing. The Brisa says, Hamalves chaver lamashkan, if somebody lends his friend money on collateral. Now in general, if there's a loan and the Shemitah year comes, Shemitah cancels the loan. But if the lender takes a collateral, so then we say that Shemitah does not cancel the loan. Essentially, he's already begun collecting the loan by taking this collateral. So in this case, he lent money and he took a collateral. V'nichnas ha-Shemitah, and then the Shemitah year came. Even though the collateral he took is not worth the entire value of the loan, it's just worth half of the loan, Eino Meshamit, still that collateral is effective, and Shemitah does not cancel the loan. Divrei Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. That's what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, that again, that collateral, even though it's only half, it is effective. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, Im haya mashkon keneged halva'aso eino meshamit. If the collateral corresponds to the value of the loan, then it's not going to cancel, meaning Shemitah won't cancel the loan, then it's effective. V'im lav meshamit, but if not, then Shemitah will cancel the loan, then the collateral will not be effective. And so the Gemara wants to clarify what exactly is happening in this brisa. My eino meshamit to come Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. When Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says eino meshamit, which essentially what he means to say is that the loan is not canceled and the collateral is effective, what does he mean that is effective? Now, if you're going to say that it's only effective corresponding to the value of the collateral, meaning it's not effective to protect the entire loan, but it's just effective, let's say, for half of the loan, if that's what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel means, so Mechlal de Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Savar, but that would imply that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds, lahach palga nami meshamet, that even for the half, also the loan will be canceled, meaning to say it's going to be completely ineffective. Rav Shimon Gamliel is saying that it's going to be half effective, essentially, and then Rav Yehuda HaNasi is arguing back that it's not going to be effective at all. And Rashi explains, Hamalva lamashkon in shvius meshametis. In general, when you have a loan on collateral, shvius does not cancel the loan. The lo karina be lo yigos, we don't call lo yigos, that's the pasuk that discusses the idea of Shemitah canceling the loan. Sharei eno tovo klum, because there he's not really claiming anything from the guy, because the lender already has something in his hands. He already has the collateral, therefore the pasuk of lo yigos doesn't apply. That's why Shemitah doesn't cancel the loan. Ela plag chatzi achov. Now the case over here is that the collateral is only worth half of the debt. Eno meshamit lekamin mefarish lo. What it means eno meshamit, it sounds like it's saying the collateral is effective, but to what extent, that we're about to explain. And so the Gemara said, Ilema de eno meshamit keneged chatzi achov shutofes. If you're going to say, essentially, it's only half effective, the loan is not going to be canceled corresponding to the half of the debt, shutofes mashkon olav, which is corresponding to the value of the collateral that he's holding. Eno meshamit, that's not canceled. Avol meshamit hu hashar, but the rest is canceled. Essentially, if you're going to say that Rav Shimon Gamliel is saying that the collateral is half effective, Mechlal Rav Yehuda HaNasi asa l'meimer, that would imply that Rav Yehuda HaNasi is saying to kevan deino mashkona keneged halva asa, that since the mashkon is not the value of the loan, meshamed kolachov, so the whole debt is going to be canceled, meaning it's going to be completely ineffective. But bitmiya, but that's a wonder. That wouldn't make any sense to say that Rav Yehuda HaNasi is saying the collateral is totally not effective. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Memtes Amud Aleph.